Do you consider yourself a high achiever? Smart, driven, highly successful? I am so excited to have you. My name is Julia Arndt, and I'm the host of the Stress Podcast. I will help you develop your stress resilience the same way you've developed your workplace superpowers. Learn peak performance tools to thrive at work and in your personal life. Let's get started. Hello, peak performer. Welcome back to the Stress Podcast. I am so excited to be here with you today and to record this really special podcast episode with you, because today I want to talk with you about how to build a business in 2023. There are two really important reasons for me sitting down today and recording this podcast. Number one, I am officially celebrating 4 years in business today. I started my business on February 1st, 2019. And so today, on February 1st, 2023, marks officially 4 years in business, which is really exciting and really hard to believe at the same time. I don't know if I feel like time flew by or if I feel like it's actually been 4 years and there's been really good things that happened and really difficult things that happened. But I am here today. I am running a really successful business, and I couldn't be more proud, honestly, of myself, of sticking through the highs and lows of entrepreneurship. And so I got a lot of questions from you over the last couple of weeks, in particular, about how I started my business and how I made this decision and, what kind of important things to keep in mind. So it really inspired me to record this podcast episode today. And then second of all, I said there were two reasons why I'm recording this podcast today. The second reason is because many of you are currently going through tech layoffs, no matter if you are directly impacted and you've been just recently laid off from your company, or you are on the other side and you have been watching your friends and colleagues and peers and leaders leave the company. Is not an easy place to be in. And you might wonder, what is next for you? Maybe you are still there, but maybe you are also dabbling with the idea to start your own thing. And you have always wondered and maybe wanted to know from me, how did I start my business? And what are the things that I would maybe tell my 4-year younger self for starting a business? So yeah, I'm super excited to dive with you today into the podcast and dive with you into the big question, how to start a business in 2023. And I would say, let's get started. Hi, peak performer, and welcome to this really special podcast episode today. I am super beyond excited to record this podcast, and it couldn't be at a better time because it's honestly a really special feeling to have a business for 4 years. And I want to share with you my 5 biggest learnings / obviously tips for you to start a business. And I want to jump with you right into the very first one. And the very first tip and the very first thing that I would recommend you to do when you are thinking about starting your own business is to find something that you are really passionate about. I know this is kind of easy to say. Sometimes maybe it is not, but I think when you are starting a business, it is really, really important that you are fully 100% behind your mission and behind what you are doing, because entrepreneurship is not for the faint of heart and it can get really challenging over the course of time. And I think that if you are not 100% fully believing in what you are doing, then it's going to be really hard to keep it up. And for some of you that may know me better or that have followed me for a really long time, you may even know that I also started 2 other businesses on the side while I still had my corporate job in order to dabble in entrepreneurship. And honestly, I think the reasons why those 2 businesses didn't take off was because I wasn't 100% convinced about that idea. I was curious to try out a couple of different things, and it still helped me a lot by just learning different skills that I didn't know I had. So it was still really helpful to set me up for success for this business, but it was never really something that I 100% fully stood behind pursuing for the long term. And so that is my first tip for you. Find something that you are passionate about. Really think about what has been maybe the red thread through your whole life. What have been programs and certifications and courses that you have been taking over the course of the last years, because those are usually pretty good insights into what you're passionate about. So when I think back to all of the things that I did in my 20s, honestly, it was I did a couple of different certifications that were more health related. I did a 400-hour yoga teacher training certification. I did a gym instructor certification. I did a evening diploma in sports psychology. Those were all things that I was doing on the side and that I was super duper passionate about. I was really passionate about, especially in my 20s, to go to the gym and lift weights and be healthy. And that's something that I'm still super passionate about, by the way. But I decided obviously not to go into the route of physical health and helping people with that, even though honestly, this is something that I still keep thinking about sometimes when things get hard in my own business, and I think maybe I have totally chosen the wrong path for myself. But all of these insights aside, I also invested a lot in my own personal development. I was listening to a ton of different podcasts. I listened to a lot of different personal development books. I was really, really curious about all of these different topics, about mindset and about limiting beliefs and about how to manage stress. I did obviously a certification as a coach a couple of years back as well. So all of these different things kind of all came together. And I feel like today I'm really doing what I'm super passionate about, because here's another fun fact for you. I was actually, when I finished high school, I always wanted to become a teacher. And my dad is a teacher, and a lot of my family members were teachers in the past. And so I just had that calling always as well. I always wanted to become a teacher. And I obviously talked with my dad about it as I was preparing to go to college and making a decision, obviously, which degree to take. And he said to me, don't become a teacher, do something different, because he is not very happy in his job. And he's obviously done it for many, many, many years, 30 years, 40 years. And so I always took my dad's feedback and opinion very seriously and very to heart. So because of his input, I actually decided to study international business and management with a focus on foreign languages, because I love foreign languages. I speak 3 languages fluently. And anyway, so that obviously got put on the back burner of doing this, becoming a teacher. But, look where I am today. What do I do on a day-to-day basis? I'm actually teaching and I love it. And this is something that is also, funnily enough, kind of came back all the way around. And the reason why I'm sharing all of these insights with you from my own life is because, now that I look back, it all makes sense. It makes sense why I do what I do today and why I love it so much, because it was always somewhat part of me. But I lost track of that, obviously, over the course of my 20s and my early 30s. And, and sometimes answers and things are not as clear to us. And it wasn't at all clear to me at the time either when I made the decision to start my own business. But here I am 4 years later, and I am running this really beautiful, wonderful, successful business, and I couldn't be happier. So find something that you're passionate about. Look at the things that you have been investing in over the course of a lifetime, things that are maybe your hobbies or that you're really curious about. Those might all be indications and insights for you of what you could do for business. Tip number 2, don't be afraid to offer things for free. This is actually an advice that I just recently gave to someone that set up time with me and asked me about my opinion on how to start a business. And it was really wonderful to talk to him because obviously it always brings me back into these reflections myself of, well, how did everything start? What did I actually do in order to become successful? And one of the things, honestly, in 2019, when I started running this business that I didn't want to do is to offer things for free. I was really against it, and I was almost mad sometimes with coaches that I saw online that offered free master classes and free trainings and free this and that and free complimentary sessions and all these kind of things, because I thought to myself, oh, they really undervalue themselves and undersell themselves, and they make it really difficult for other coaches on the market that are actually charging money for these kind of things to make a living. So, I was very opinionated about it. And now, looking back at 2019 and 2020 in particular, so my first 2 years in business, I actually did offer a lot of things for free. The first thing that I actually did in April of 2019 was to offer a free workshop to a corporation and to just go and facilitate a training. This obviously helped me to build a clientele. It helped me to put myself out there. It helped me to practice. I actually also took my photographer with me at the time. So I flew us out to Chicago, her and myself, for free, right? I didn't get any money for that gig, but I really wanted to create really valuable content for my website at the time in order to start building credibility about my business. And that was the best thing I could do, honestly. I'm 100% sure that that reason why I am as successful as I am today is because I put myself out there in the past and I did these things. And I actually got 2 one-on-one coaching clients out of that first gig that I did. And so it wasn't for free. And that was my biggest learning. When you offer things for free, it's never really for free because you're always creating connections, which are especially super, super important at the beginning when you're starting a business. You are creating a network, you are building credibility. And all of these things are absolutely priceless and very, very often, and there are many, many other examples in my business over the last 4 years where I offered things for free and it always came back to me 3, 4, 5-fold. Another example that I want to share with you is 2020. March 2020, the pandemic hit. Everyone was asked to work remotely and stay at home. And all of my companies that I had been working with for the first year cut their budgets. Nobody knew what was going on. And obviously, I was in the second year of my business. I had spent all of my savings, went through all of my savings, because here's another kind of side tip as you're starting a business. Don't just have savings for the first year. Definitely have savings for longer than that, because you never really know what's happening in the market. And it can take a little bit of time to actually, to take off. And so the pandemic hit. All of the budgets were cut. I had only been in business for a year. I had just rebranded my company from Blue Mountain Mindfulness to Peak Performance Method, and I had spent a ton of money on that as well. And I was excited to start going out again and facilitating trainings, and all of a sudden, all of that stopped. And nobody knew, right, at the time, how long are we actually going to stay at home? How long are we going to work remotely? How long will budgets be cut, and so on? And so again, I went out there and I just told myself, all I can do at the moment is to invest in business development, because my people still need help, and they're really struggling at the moment, and they don't know how to navigate that change, and they don't know how to work from home, which is something that I had already been experienced in because I had already worked from home for a year. And so I set up 2 trainings that I offered for free, and I trained over 500 people in the first few months of the pandemic alone on how to navigate change and how to work remotely. And so again, that was all for free. And I remember my partner at the time, really challenged me to start charging money for that. He was like, just even set up like a PayPal account or something and just ask people to donate money, because you are a small business owner and you also need to make money somehow, which I actually did. And I think I got like $150 or something like that from that. But over the course of time, obviously a lot of people started to learn about me. And when budgets were freed up again and people still were really interested in the themes and in the workshops that I was offering, I could start to charge money, and not a little. So I actually ended up having a very successful second half of 2022 and making really good money. And again, I don't think that would have been as successful as if I wouldn't have offered something for free. So now I know this. Now I am embracing this. And I think I usually do something at least once or twice a year that's completely for free. This year, for example, I already offered a free masterclass. Over 200 people joined that session. Last year, I offered I offered a special training for one of my main clients, where also 250 people showed up. So yeah, so that is my next tip. When you are starting a business, don't be afraid to offer things for free, because it's never actually for free. You will always gain something from it, and you have to trust in that. Tip number 3. I think you've heard that before, but it is something that's always on my mind and something that has fortunately proven to really support me in my business over the last 4 years. And it is diversify your income. Yes, very, very important, because if you are putting all ducks in one basket, or all eggs, hold on, it's all eggs in one basket. My friends and family constantly laugh about me because I make up these quotes that actually don't exist. But I think it is, I put all my eggs in one basket. I didn't put all of my eggs in one basket, but some people do, and that's very high risk in my opinion, because things constantly change. If there's one thing that I learned as an entrepreneur, and that's actually tip number 4, and we're going to talk about that a little bit deeper. But if there's one thing that I learned as an entrepreneur is I need to be super flexible. I need to be able to shift and change with the market and with the demand. And it is really, really important to not stay kind of fixated on one thing and not be open to change. That's super, super important. And so diversifying my income was one of the best decisions I made on February 1st, 2019, when I started this business. I knew very, very clearly what kind of different income streams I wanted to invest in. And there were a couple of short-term income streams and a couple of longer-term income streams, a couple of active income streams and a couple of passive income streams. And the mix of all of these things have honestly helped me survive during more difficult times and also thrive during really, really good times. And yeah, and I sometimes talk to coaches as well, and they may have not done that as wisely, and they diversified their income and they're struggling. And so that is something that I knew from the beginning as I started this business that I didn't want. I didn't want to struggle. I didn't want this I didn't want money to be the factor of deciding if my business was successful or not, which obviously in a way it always is. But especially in the first 2-3 years, I wanted to give myself a little bit of a grace period to really see if things were resonating with my audience. And they obviously did. And so diversify your income is my big tip number 3 if you are thinking about starting your business in 2023. Be really clear about what it is that you want to offer. So to give you an example, I do corporate workshops where I make most of my revenue from. I do one-on-one coaching where I also make a lot of revenue and income from, especially in the last 6 months of my business, because the market has shifted and it was really important to have that shift and have that option even. And I'll talk about that again in tip number 4 a little bit more. I also have an online coaching program. I have the Peak Performance Planner. And I also have my long-term investment, which is my YouTube content channel and also my Instagram account, where I'm obviously posting on a very regular basis. I have this podcast as well, obviously. And so all of these things help me to be successful. And I think it is really important to be intentional right from the bat on where your money is coming from. Tip number 4, I already alluded to it, but I'm going to say it again, and I'm going to give a little bit more insight on that. Tip number 4 is be open to pivot and shift. Dear God, if I wouldn't have been able to do that over the last 4 years, I don't think my company would exist anymore. But because I had a diversified income stream, I was able to consistently shift between all of these different areas as just the market was shifting. But imagine over the last 3 years, we had the pandemic, and then people were slowly going back to the office, right? So they were shifting again from working remotely to going back into the office in a hybrid model. There were a lot of changes internally, lots of tech layoffs last year, and obviously going into this year as well. What else? Oh, the market recession. Yes, we are not doing so well at the moment. So that obviously impacts the budgets that my companies have available to invest in external speakers as well. So I feel like I've gone through a really difficult time over the last 4 years because honestly, it constantly shifts between there is budget for stuff like that or for stuff that Julia is offering, and then there's no budget at all for things like that. And so very early on in the summer of 2022, so last year, I saw this coming. I saw the market slowing down. I saw the tech layoffs starting to happen. And I told myself, I need to shift ASAP because my companies are going to cut budgets again, and I'm not going to be able to rely on that revenue income stream for the rest of the year. And so good that I did that because I really doubled down on my one-on-one coaching efforts. I updated my packages, I updated my pricing, and at the moment I'm running a lot of my business off of one-on-one coaching clients, and I'm super grateful for that. I'm super grateful to be able to talk with clients one-on-one. I'm super grateful to learn from them because obviously all of the things that we chat about also feeds into new ideas to talk for me about on my podcast channel and on my YouTube videos, of course, as well. And obviously there's a different connection when you're working one-on-one with people, and that's always really special. So super, super grateful for that. Super grateful that I made that shift. Doesn't mean that I'm forgetting about business development and networking and creating my relationships and fostering my relationships with the corporate world. Okay. So yeah, pivoting and shifting is super important. If you are someone that doesn't like change, maybe you shouldn't become an entrepreneur because that will 100% most certainly happen. And I think this is also something that I honestly learned at my time at Google, because in the 7.5 years that I worked at Google, I cannot tell you how many reorgs I went through. I can't tell you how many different managers I was reporting into, how many people I met, how many people came, how many people went, and so on, right? And so you just kind of get used to things changing all the time. And obviously, we talk about life is the only, if change is the only constant, let's get better at that, right? So life is all about changes all the time. And so pivoting and shifting, that's something to keep in mind. I think it's very closely connected to obviously diversifying your income. So those would be 2 tips that are kind of interconnected with each other. Finally, tip number 5. The number 5 tip that I want to share with you today is the tip: set specific goals and stay true to them. And in brackets, I wrote self-motivation and self-discipline, for example, with podcast and YouTube. What do I mean by that? So oftentimes when I talk to people, excuse me. Oftentimes when I talk to people nowadays and they ask me about how I started my business, they always say, wow, you have this like incredible Instagram account and you have this incredible YouTube channel and you have so many videos and you have a podcast. How were you able to do all of these different things so consistently over 4 years? And my answer is, number one, I am a peak performer and I'm super ambitious and I have a very high level of self-motivation and self-discipline. So I have a hard time to break my own rules. In all honesty, which is sometimes obviously a blessing and a curse. But honestly, for building a business, I think this is an important skill and what do you say, like a skill and characteristic to have, something that really helped me to persist over the last 4 years and become successful. So how do I think about that? And what do I mean by setting specific goals and staying true to them? Well, so on February 1st, 2019, when I decided to start this business, I told myself, okay, how do I want to show up on social media? And obviously, on what kind of channels do I want to show up? And how do I want to show up? And I made the decision that I want to record one podcast episode per week, that I want to record one YouTube video per week. I actually think it was 2 YouTube videos at the beginning, but I shifted that to one video because one video is a lot already and one podcast. So I had to manage that a little bit, but I am still obviously showing up on a very regular basis. So one podcast, one YouTube video, and then also 4 Instagram posts per week, because I knew that it can be so easy to slip into other things and other projects. But I knew that that was kind of a long-term investment and still is, right? I still haven't absolutely blown up on YouTube or on Instagram, but when I talk to people, they always tell me, wow, I saw this and I saw the website and I saw the YouTube channel, and it just helped me build credibility. And I knew that it was just something that I slowly had to invest in over time, and that it was not something that is just going to happen from one day to another. So I'm really proud of that. And I'm really grateful for that. I'm really grateful that I made that decision. And like I said, I'm still sticking to it to this day. And it's powerful to see, really powerful to see how much came out of that. You know, I have over 200 podcast episodes. I have 203. I don't even know, honestly. I think I have probably 400 videos on YouTube. I have actually 2 YouTube channels, one for my podcast where you can see all of the videos that I'm recording, and then obviously one for my main channel. And yeah, wow, that was so much work. That was so much work. And it is to this day, even though I have an amazing editor that is helping me and supporting me by building this content and packaging this content in an absolutely beautiful way. But it is still a lot of work. It is a lot of time management and commitment, because I have to find time to sit down to record these podcast episodes. I have to find time to record my videos. I obviously have to prepare them. I have to think about what is relevant for my audience. But here is what keeps me motivated. When I have a moment where I have a day where I'm feeling super discouraged because the growth of my different channels is not as big as I want it to be. And obviously, we always want our growth in some way to be bigger and faster and better. Or when I feel like just very uninspired or unmotivated that day, I go back. I go back to my YouTube channel. I go back on my Instagram account, or I'm going back to my podcast hosting service. And I look at all of you. I look at the numbers of how many people I've been able to impact by doing this. And I look at how much content I've actually created and how much I've grown. I was actually just scrolling through my archive on Instagram because I wanted to post a couple of stories about how I started this business. And I saw the first videos that I recorded for my YouTube channel. And oh gosh, I was so nervous sitting in front of the camera. I was so nervous even sitting in front of my microphone and just recording a podcast. And I had to re-record it 100 times, no joke. And I ended up actually writing a script for my first podcast episode and reading it because I was so nervous about doing that. And English is my second language. And I definitely had like a block and a limiting belief about maybe not being the best public speaker at the time. And so it's just so powerful to look at these things and to celebrate your own growth. And even though I haven't had the audience growth yet, that I am absolutely sure I will get at some point throughout this career. It is just my own personal growth that I'm celebrating so much, and I am so grateful for that. And it's really fascinating to be totally honest with you. So this podcast has almost 100,000 downloads to date. I'm actually waiting to celebrate this with you. I was just looking at the numbers, I think 2 days ago, and I was at 99,000 downloads. So all of these little things still make a dent into what you're doing, right? There's another really beautiful quote, and I'm absolutely going to get this wrong right now, because it's probably a German saying, actually. But it is, every drip of a water drop makes a difference. Okay, let me actually look it up really quickly because I'm sitting here in front of my computer. Anyway, Okay, well, I can't find it right now. I thought it was every drop counts, but I'm reading here on Google that it says it means that conserving even a little water here and there will add up to big savings. Well, you can see that literal. There's a different saying in German, but basically what I'm trying to say is that every little step matters. It matters so much. And that was honestly a mindset that I had adopted through my gym times, through going to the gym on a regular and consistent basis, even when I didn't feel like it, even when I didn't feel like showing up for that, I still showed up for it because I knew that even that mattered, even that day that mattered, and even that day mattered even more so than the days when I already felt super motivated and inspired to do something anyway, right? Because that built that mental muscle and that mental strength and that mental toughness of even surviving the hard days and the difficult days. So if you're thinking about starting a business, then ask yourself, how do you want to show up? What do you want to do? Is YouTube going to be part of your strategy? Is Instagram going to be part of your strategy? Is LinkedIn going to be part of your strategy? Make a conscious decision and then go with it. Stick to it, even through the difficult times, even when you're posting things and you have 1 like or 2 likes, because even that mattered to that one person or to those 2 people that actually saw the post and felt inspired by it. And now when I'm looking at my YouTube channel videos and they have maybe 15 views or 45 views, right? It's the same thing. I could think, oh my God, my videos still don't have thousands and tens and hundreds and thousands of views, right? Because I'm looking at all of these other YouTube creators that I have been following for the last 4 years and that have blown up since I started my YouTube channel. But then, you can also shift that perspective and say, wow, I was just able to impact 15, 20, 25 people. That's a lot of people, let's be honest. So those are my 5 tips on how to start a business in 2023. Number 1, find something you are passionate about. Number 2, don't be afraid to offer things for free. Number 3, diversify your income. Number 4, be open to pivot and shift. And number 5, set specific goals and stay true to them, with the caveat, self-motivation and discipline, for example, with podcasts and YouTube. Those are my first tips. If you are curious on how I started my business in 2019, because I think this is really valuable, obviously, hopefully for you to feel inspired and motivated to go out and do your own thing as well. Because if you have that inkling and if you have been thinking about this for a really long time, maybe you should just do it. I believe in you and I would love to see your business thrive. If you have any follow-up questions for me, you can always reach out to me. I don't just say that because I'm saying it. I say this because I mean it. There is a link on my website and obviously in the show notes as well that you can come to in order to connect with me. So don't ever hesitate to reach out to me and connect with me. Always excited to hear from you. And as I am obviously developing this business further and going with big steps into year number 5 of my business, I'm also obviously always thinking about how I can serve you best. And one of the things that I have been honestly thinking about since I started this business is to run a program for people that want to start building their own business and give them coaching around the important mindset that you need to have, about the right tools that you need to have. So just something I'm thinking about, not something that I currently offer, but if you are interested and if you say, wow, that sounds amazing and I would love to learn from Julia and I would love to just learn how to set up my business, send me an email. And at least I know that there are people out there that are actually interested in it, and it will give obviously me the motivation as well to start and set up a course like that for 2023. That's all I wanted to share with you today. I hope you found this helpful, and I really appreciate you listening today. So thank you so much for being here. I wish you all the best in your future endeavors, no matter what it is, no matter where you are right now. Know that you are supported and that you are loved and that I believe in you. So take care of yourself and I'll talk to you hopefully in the next podcast episode.